"This place isn't for you, ma'am," Staff Sergeant Thompson said politely but firmly to the woman entering Fort Campbell's elite Delta Force training facility in civilian workout clothes. "This facility is for Tier 1 operators only." The 12 Delta operators laughed, wondering what she was doing in their military gym. But none could predict that within 15 minutes, she would pass impossible fitness tests and lead a real rescue operation. Before we start this video, in what area do you feel more talented than others? Share in the comments. Captain Lisa Iron Rodriguez quietly walked into the Delta Force training facility at Fort Campbell. Her civilian workout clothes and modest demeanor made her look completely out of place among the elite Delta operators. At 29 years old, she was officially visiting the facility as part of an inter-service cooperation program, but the Delta team had no idea what her true qualifications were. The Campbell Fitness Center was legendary in military circles, a state-of-the-art facility where the country's most elite warriors developed their physical capabilities. The walls were covered with photos of famous Delta operations, record-breaking performances, and the names of operators who had achieved legendary status in fitness. "Ma'am, this area is for qualified military personnel only," Staff Sergeant Thompson continued, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent 15 years transforming ordinary soldiers into elite warriors. Behind him, 12 Delta operators were preparing for their weekly fitness competition, a tradition that had been going on continuously for over a decade. The competition specifically focused on one achievement: Thompson's legendary full-kit 20-kilometer run record that he had accomplished under perfect conditions 5 years ago. This run had become mythical in Delta circles and represented the absolute pinnacle of physical endurance that could be produced in the facility. "Are you here for an administrative tour?" Sergeant Marcus Kane asked with barely concealed amusement, adjusting his own tactical fitness gear. "The visitor center is in the main building." Petty Officer David Thunder Brooks pointed to the observation area with obvious condescension. "Ma'am, you're welcome to watch from behind the safety line, but this is advanced tactical training. We work with equipment that requires years of experience and extensive certification." Staff Sergeant Tyler Viper Coleman chuckled while adjusting his own fitness monitor. "I hope you brought your camera. You're about to see some of the best physical performances in the Army." Lisa examined the training setup with quiet interest. The fitness stations were perfectly designed, state-of-the-art cardio equipment, power training systems, and advanced performance monitoring devices. But what caught her attention was how the Delta operators respectfully discussed Thompson's 5-year-old record. "The legendary run," Thompson announced with obvious pride, pointing to the distant 20-kilometer course. "Perfect weather conditions, perfect equipment setup, perfect execution. Everything had to be absolutely flawless." Kane put on his tactical vest and full gear, his movements practiced and confident. "Every Delta operator who comes to this facility tries to match the staff sergeant's record. Most can't even come close." "This isn't just about fitness," Brooks explained while adjusting his own equipment. "This is about understanding atmospheric conditions, calculating for environmental variables, and maintaining psychological control under pressure." Lisa watched the preparations with professional interest, noting the weather flags positioned at intervals throughout the course, the sophisticated weather monitoring equipment, and the computerized performance calculators the operators used to compensate for environmental factors. "Runner ready," Kane announced, controlling his breathing and his stance being textbook perfection. He started. The Delta operator took off on the 20-kilometer course in full gear, running at an impressive pace despite the weight of his tactical gear. With high-precision chronometer, the range officer announced the result. Good run, but not a record. About 3 minutes slow and 45 seconds late finish. Kane shook his head with professional disappointment. Damn, that last kilometer was tough. Brooks took position for the next attempt, making final adjustments based on the precise feedback from Kane's close miss. His run was equally professional, equally close, but equally unsuccessful. 2 minutes, 15 seconds slow, came the spotter's report. Coleman stepped up confidently, morale boosted by the precise feedback from previous runs. His performance came even closer to the target. 1 minute 30 seconds slow, but best finish time, the spotter announced. Best run of the day so far. One by one, the Delta operators made their attempts on Thompson's legendary course. Each run showed extraordinary skill and training. Each close miss proved the challenge's difficulty, but none reached the target. After 12 attempts by 12 elite operators, the 20-kilometer full kit record remained unbroken. Tough conditions today, Thompson observed, noting that variable humidity had affected all runs. That's why the record has stood for 5 years. Everything must be absolutely perfect. Equipment, conditions, runner, and a bit of luck, too. Lisa had carefully watched every attempt, noting weather patterns, observing the mirage effects from heat rising from the desert terrain, and calculating the environmental factors that caused the consistent near misses. What she saw told her the conditions were actually quite good for long-distance performance, but the operators were making subtle errors in equipment load distribution and pacing strategies. "Excuse me," she said quietly, her voice barely audible across the range. "Could I try an attempt myself?" The reaction was immediate and predictable. Kane looked at her with obvious amusement. "Ma'am, this is a 20-kilometer full tactical gear run, not really suitable for beginners." Brooks shook his head with patient condescension. "This equipment requires significant upper body strength just to carry the weight. If you're not properly prepared, the recoil can cause serious injuries." But Lisa was already walking toward the tactical gear, moving with familiarity rather than curiosity. "Ma'am," Thompson said with growing concern, "this equipment system requires comprehensive safety briefing." Lisa lifted the 35-kilogram tactical vest as if it were standard combat gear, checked the weight distribution, and adjusted the straps with obvious expertise. "Damn," someone whispered, watching her handle the heavy weapon with complete confidence. "Ma'am," Thompson said carefully, "have you used tactical gear before?" "A little," Lisa replied, already settling into a running position that was textbook perfection according to military fitness doctrine. The Delta operators gathered behind her, their amusement giving way to genuine curiosity as they watched her prepare with movements suggesting comprehensive training. "What distance?" Lisa asked quietly. "Try 5 kilometers first," Kane suggested, assuming she needed to work up to longer distances. Lisa looked at the 5-kilometer marker, then shifted her aim to the 20-kilometer course that had defeated 12 elite operators that morning. "If acceptable, I'd like to attempt the record run." The silence that followed lasted exactly 5 seconds. "Ma'am," Thompson said slowly, "this is an extremely difficult run. Professional Delta operators with years of experience struggle on that course." "I understand," Lisa replied, already making adjustments based on her observations of previous attempts. Brooks stepped forward with obvious concern. "Ma'am, the psychological pressure of attempting a legendary run can affect even experienced runners. There's no shame in starting with shorter distances, But Lisa was already in position, breathing controlled, stance perfect. Her eye aligned with the scope in a running position that showed years of advanced training. The Delta operators watched in fascination as she made final adjustments, compensating for environmental factors with precision, suggesting comprehensive ballistic knowledge. "Runner ready," she announced quietly. The training facility fell into silence except for the flutter of wind flags and the hum of distant air conditioning units. She started. Lisa took off on the 20-kilometer course in full gear, displaying perfect pace control from the first step and fluid running form despite the weight of tactical gear. 5-kilometer mark, on record pace. 10-kilometer mark, still on record pace. 15-kilometer mark, she passed Thompson's legendary split time. Complete silence reigned in the training facility as everyone realized a civilian contractor was about to break a 5-year Delta Force record. In the final 5 kilometers, Lisa accelerated. The tactical gear seemed weightless, breathing control perfect, no form breakdown. When she crossed the finish line, the electronic timing system announced a new record, 4 minutes 23 seconds faster than Thompson's 5-year record. Complete silence filled the training facility. Coleman began, then was unable to finish the sentence. "New record confirmed at 20 kilometers, the spotter announced in disbelief. 4 minutes 23 seconds improvement, perfect run." The Delta operators stared at Lisa with expressions ranging from open shock to something approaching awe. The 5-year facility record had just been broken by a visiting officer they had assumed was a tourist. "Ma'am," Thompson said slowly, his voice carrying a mixture of respect and professional curiosity. "What exactly is your military specialty?" Lisa smiled quietly while removing the heavy tactical gear. "Physical conditioning and combat readiness, 75th Ranger Regiment. I'm actually here to brief your team on an urgent mission." Before anyone could respond, emergency alarms began screaming across the base. Red warning lights began flashing throughout the facility as Commander Sarah Hayes burst into the facility with an expression of urgency. "All Delta personnel, report for immediate deployment," she shouted over the sirens. "We have American hostages in enemy territory. Mission briefing begins now." The casual atmosphere died instantly as the 12 Delta operators snapped to attention, and competitive runs were forgotten in the face of real-world crisis. "Commander, what's the situation?" Thompson asked immediately, switching from range instructor to combat leader. "Terrorist organization has taken 8 American aid workers hostage in Afghanistan," Hayes announced with deadly seriousness. "Intelligence shows they're being held in a mountain compound with sophisticated defenses and multiple sniper positions." Lisa stepped forward with professional authority. "Commander, I'm Lieutenant Rodriguez, 75th Rangers. I believe I'm your designated physical conditioning specialist for this operation." Hayes checked her classified tablet. "Confirmed. Lieutenant Rodriguez will provide high-altitude combat conditioning and extreme endurance support during extraction." Kane looked at Lisa with new understanding and growing respect. "You're here for Afghan deployment." "Correct," Lisa replied, her soft voice now carrying the authority of proven competence. "The terrorists are positioned at 4,200 meters altitude. At that elevation, standard Delta tactics result in significant casualties unless operators are properly conditioned." Thompson studied Lisa with the professional assessment of someone who had just witnessed her extraordinary run. "Ma'am, how do you plan to engage 8 enemy snipers positioned at unknown ranges in mountainous terrain at 4,200 meters altitude?" Lisa looked at the tactical gear still warm from her record-breaking run. "Staff Sergeant, the same way I just did." but in oxygen-deprived conditions and with targets that shoot back. 3 hours later, 4 MH-60 Black Hawk helicopters lifted off from Fort Campbell, carrying the Delta team toward the most dangerous hostage rescue mission of their careers. Lisa Rodriguez sat in the lead aircraft, custom tactical gear on her lap, surrounded by Delta operators who now understood she was truly someone exceptional. The flight to the Afghan compound lasted 8 hours over enemy territory, crossing international borders and flying through airspace where American aircraft would be shot down if spotted. Through night vision equipment, Lisa could see the target facility nestled in a valley between 2 mountain ranges, surrounded by natural defensive positions in a fortified compound. Primary objective hostage extraction, came the mission briefing through their headsets. Secondary objective elimination of terrorist leadership. Intelligence confirms 8 American aid workers are being held in the central building. As they approached the valley, the mission commander provided tactical updates. Enemy sniper positions identified at 8 locations. Ranges vary from 800 to 1,600 meters. These positions must be neutralized before Delta teams can approach the compound. Through her advanced scope, Lisa studied the terrain, identifying each enemy position and calculating environmental factors that would affect her shots. The mountain location created complex wind patterns, altitude affected atmospheric pressure, and darkness limited visibility, even with night vision equipment. 6 minutes to target, the pilot announced. Lisa began her preparations, checking her equipment and mentally rehearsing the movement sequence that would open the way for the Delta assault. 8 enemy snipers positioned at varying ranges and elevations, all waiting to kill American rescue workers. 2 minutes to optimal tactical position, came the update. Lisa settled into perfect tactical mindset, equipment steady despite helicopter movement. In position for sniper elimination, she reported over radio. What happened next became legend in Delta team history. Lisa's first shot eliminated the enemy sniper covering the main approach route before the helicopters opened fire. Her second shot took out the marksman assigned to engage landing aircraft. Her third shot neutralized the sniper assigned to prevent hostage movement. But she was just getting started. Her fourth shot eliminated the enemy sniper who was repositioning to engage Delta teams. Her fifth shot took out the marksman covering the compound's rear exit. Her sixth shot neutralized the sniper coordinating enemy defensive fire. Her seventh shot eliminated the enemy's most dangerous marksman with clear field of fire across the entire valley at 1,600 meters. Her eighth shot took out the final sniper, clearing all enemy overwatch positions and leaving the compound defenseless against Delta assault tactics. In less than 3 minutes, 8 enemy snipers eliminated at ranges exceeding 800 meters under high-altitude conditions. All sniper positions neutralized, Lisa reported with characteristic calm. Delta teams have clear approach vectors. The helicopter assault proceeded flawlessly. Without enemy sniper coverage, the terrorist defenders were quickly overwhelmed by Delta tactics, training, and firepower. All 8 American hostages were rescued without casualties, and terrorist leadership was eliminated. During the return flight, Staff Sergeant Thompson approached Lisa with expressions of awe and professional respect. "Ma'am, what you accomplished tonight. 8 moving targets under combat conditions at high altitude. This isn't just exceptional fitness. This is redefining what's possible." Kane nodded emphatically, still processing what he had witnessed. This morning's facility record was impressive, but tonight's combat performance was legendary. Brooks studied Lisa with obvious curiosity. "Ma'am, how did you learn to shoot like that?" "Your technique is unlike anything we've seen," Lisa cleaned her equipment with the same methodical precision she had shown all day. 75th Rangers teaches precision conditioning under adverse conditions, gentlemen. Mountains, high altitude, combat stress. We train for all of it. When they returned to Naval Base Coronado, the mission debrief focused as much on Lisa's performance as the successful hostage rescue. Lieutenant Rodriguez eliminated 8 enemy snipers from conditions and distances deemed impossible, Commander Hayes announced to the assembled Delta team. Her performance enabled successful completion of a mission that intelligence assessments rated at less than 20% chance of success. The briefing room was filled with Delta operators, support personnel, and senior officers who had come to understand what happened during the Afghan mission. Lisa sat quietly in the front row, still wearing tactical gear, as Hayes presented her performance using satellite imagery and shot analysis. Staff Sergeant Thompson slowly stood up, his attitude completely transformed from the man who had dismissed her as a tourist 12 hours earlier. Rodriguez, what you accomplished today goes beyond exceptional fitness. You enabled the rescue of 8 American civilians and completed a mission deemed nearly impossible. The room erupted in applause, something Lisa had never expected when she was supposed to have come for a routine inter-service visit. Kane stepped forward with obvious admiration. "Ma'am, this morning's facility performance was impressive, but tonight's combat conditioning was legendary. Could you teach us your precision conditioning techniques?" But Lisa's response was characteristically understated. "Gentlemen, every military branch has specialized skills. Rangers focus on precision conditioning under adverse conditions. You focus on close quarters combat and tactical assault. We all serve the same mission." Thompson walked to the facility record board and made a notation next to the 20-kilometer entry. Beside his own name and 5-year achievement, he wrote, "Record broken by Lieutenant Rodriguez, 75th Rangers. Combat performance exceeded all expectations, but Lisa wasn't finished demonstrating her capabilities. Staff Sergeant, if you don't mind, there's something I'd like to try before I leave." She returned to the shooting line with tactical equipment, but this time she wasn't aiming at the 20-kilometer target that had defined excellence at Coronado for 5 years. She aimed at the experimental target at 25 kilometers, a distance no one at the facility had seriously attempted. "Ma'am," Thompson said with genuine concern, "that's beyond the theoretical maximum range for this facility. The target is barely visible, even with high-powered optics." "I'd still like to try," Lisa replied quietly, making adjustments with movements suggesting she had calculated the shot during her earlier observations. The Delta operators gathered behind her, casual observation replaced with intense professional interest. They were about to witness either spectacular failure or a fitness achievement that would surpass anything in their experience. Lisa settled into perfect running position, controlled her breathing, and aligned her sight picture with the distant target that appeared as little more than a dot through the scope. She started. Lisa began the 25-kilometer full tactical gear run, demonstrating a combination of impossible endurance and high-altitude conditioning. 45 minutes later, the electronic timing system announced a new facility record, 25 kilometers full tactical gear under 4,200-meter altitude simulation. Complete silence filled the training facility as everyone processed what they had just witnessed. "Confirmed completion at 25 kilometers, the spotter announced with awe-filled voice. "New facility record. Impossible distance." The Delta operators stared at Lisa with expressions that had transformed from dismissal to amazement to something approaching reverence. "Ma'am, Kane said slowly. That performance was beyond everything we thought possible at this facility. Brooks nodded with obvious respect. 25 kilometers in tactical gear. This isn't just fitness. This is legendary. 6 months later, the Delta training facility at Coronado had been transformed under Lisa's influence. Her conditioning techniques were now standard curriculum for all Delta Precision fitness specialists, and her facility records had inspired a new generation of extreme endurance specialists. The facility that had featured that 5-year record she shattered now featured multiple targets at previously impossible distances, with detailed training programs teaching Lisa's environmental calculation methods and advanced conditioning techniques. But more importantly, her tactical innovations were saving American lives in combat operations worldwide. Delta teams, Army Rangers, and Marine units were successfully completing missions that had previously failed due to high-altitude conditioning interference. Lieutenant Lisa Iron Rodriguez had been assigned to a new Special Operations Unit specializing in extreme conditioning operations across multiple theaters. Her perfect mission record included 15 successful high-altitude operations in different countries, with conditioning achievements that redefined what American forces considered tactically possible. The woman they had dismissed as a lost tourist had become the most respected conditioning instructor in the special operations community, proving that excellence can appear in unexpected places, and records only exist until someone with the right skills decides to break them. Her legacy lives on in every Delta operator who learned her techniques, in every successful mission completed with her fire support, and in every impossible performance that demonstrates what human conditioning can achieve with the right training, right equipment, and the right person behind the effort. If you were in Lisa's position, what would you have done at that critical moment? Would you have dared to break the rules in such a crisis in your own field? Share your most challenging "I had to break the rules" moment in the comments.